Good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Business at 9, and I'm Nivedna Prabhu. Let's put the spotlight on our top story. Union Agriculture Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan has reaffirmed India's unwavering commitment to its farmers, while Prime Minister Narendra Modi emphasized that the interests of farmers, cattle rearers and small-scale industries remain paramount. In fact, the Prime Minister acknowledged potential pressures, but vowed to stand firm. However, a stark comparison between Indian and US farmers highlights the challenges ahead, revealing a long road to bridge the gap for India's agricultural sector. Political rhetoric and claims apart, can India's agricultural sector withstand the force of US tariffs as the deadline looms? Let's listen in to what the Agriculture Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan said regarding the interest of farmers.
उनके कृषि उत्पादों के लिए हम बाजार खोल रहे हैं, हमारे द्वार खोल रहे हैं। उनके किसानों के हजारों हेक्टेयर जमीन, वहां अलग सब्सिडी मिलती है, वो जीएम सीड्स का उपयोग करते हैं और हमारे छोटे किसान उनका मुकाबला कर पाते क्या? भारत ने तय किया राष्ट्रहित सर्वोपरि, कोई भी समझौता देश के हितों के खिलाफ नहीं होगा। हम अपने किसान के हितों से कोई समझौता नहीं करेंगे। हम अपने मछुआरों, पशुपालकों, उनके हितों से कोई समझौता नहीं करेंगे। सोचा था कि हम डर जाएंगे, आज का भारत है जो आत्मविश्वास के साथ भर के खड़ा हुआ है।
We heard what Shivraj Singh Chauhan had to say, but let's also put into perspective what the Prime Minister stated. This is also given the aspect of what he had said earlier as far as Indian interests are concerned. Let's listen.
अपने लघु उद्यमियों से कहूंगा, मेरे छोटे छोटे दुकानदार भाई बहनों से कहूंगा, मेरे किसान भाइयों से कहूंगा, मेरे पशुपालक भाई बहन से कहूंगा, और मैं गांधी की धरती पे से बोल रहा हूं, मेरे देश के लघु उद्यमी हो, किसान हो, पशुपालक हो, हर किसी के लिए मैं आपको बार बार वादा करता हूं, मोदी के लिए आपके हित सर्वोपरि है।
All right, to discuss this further and also decode the same, joining me on the show tonight is Aditya Ashesh, member of Agriculture Committee, as well as Vijay Sardana, economist. Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you very much for taking the time out and joining us here. Let me begin with you, Mr. Sardana. We heard what essentially the Prime Minister had to say, as well as what Shivraj Singh Chauhan had to say. And more importantly, in the aspect of what the Prime Minister did state, this is not the first time as far as that red line being drawn. First things first, when you're looking at what is being said and the ground reality, how are we decoding into it tonight?
First of all, good evening to you and the fellow listeners. See, what is important here is that for the time being, yes, we can protect. But if you compare the ground reality, we are talking average 39% agriculture tariff, which is becoming an issue between India and US. Now, if you take, let me give you a live example which will clarify many things. Take an example of soybean. India is one of the largest importer of edible oil. We want to become self-sufficient in edible oil. Our MSP today is around 4,600 for soybean. Whereas the international price is 34, means we are 34% expensive at MSP level. I'm not adding mandi tax and other cost issues at all. My estimation is down the line, 10 years, the way we are increasing MSP, the cost of soybean will be 8,000 rupees per quintal, means 80 rupees a kg. Whereas the same, if you estimate the international prices, it will be something about 45 rupees a kg. Means we are 78% expensive than world market. These are projections. Tariff is 39. How you will protect your farmers? It means tariff will have breathing space for next 2 to 3 years. After that, When your MSP is constantly increasing, international prices are stagnant or going down because around the world productivity is increasing, people are adopting new technologies, enhancing production, all those things are happening. Ultimately, Indian consumers are going to pay more. To control inflation, Government of India even today reduces custom duty to control inflation. So I don't know how long this tariff issue will help Indian farmers. We have to relook into agriculture policy very seriously. This is my concern.
Fair enough that you say that, Mr. Sardana. In fact, what is required for that policy to be tweaked as well, or rather, how do you look at the bottleneck? I'll come back to you as far as that is concerned. But Mr. Shesh, thank you also very much for joining us this evening, and more importantly, having patience before we had the opportunity to come to you. The ministers, as well as, of course, what the Prime Minister has said here is that farmer interests are non-negotiable. But when the average farm household earns a normal amount of money, what does that really mean in practice?
Nivedna ji, thank you for having me on the show, and good evening to you and your listeners. As it is, the disparity between American farmers and Indian farmers is huge. On an average, the American farmer has about 444 acres per family, whereas we are like under 2. So, but thank goodness that we are a consuming economy. As far as we are a consuming economy, we are taken care of. Of course, I agree with what Vijay ji said, that our costs and therefore our prices for different producers in many cases are higher than world market, and soya bean is a standard example. But what it means for the Indian farmer is that continued support from the government will be necessary so that we keep farming viable. Even today, farming for many cases is not a viable proposition, and that is because most of the farmers rely upon MSP, and whereas they need to make a transition from MSP to MRP, meaning from produce to product. So therefore, in order to make farming not a profession but a business, that kind of near the farm processing will be one of the main things that the farmers have to do. We have to also remember that commodities goes through cycles and huge ups and downs, whereas a product goes only one way, and that is up with inflation or shrinkflation. So therefore, what it means to the farmers is transition from MSP to MRP where you can, make full use of FPOs where you can, make sure that you link from the farm to the fork where you can. Today, with so much of infrastructure development, all this is possible. And let's be honest, from 1947 to 2025, the policies of all Indian governments has been the same, and that is to keep agri imports restrictive. Today, the farming community has to understand that in order to protect the farmers, the other sectors
Mr.
are
Shesh,
taking...
what do you think, what have successive governments done? Considering the fact that you were talking about how we've seen the journey between 2014 to 2025, and given the ground reality that we're looking at today, how do you view that?
I'm talking right from 1947. The policy has been the same, and that has been to protect the farmers, because we've got 12 crore farmers. A lot of employment depends upon that. And if farming collapses due to unbridled exports, we are going to have a law and order problem in this country.
In fact, before I take that conversation forward and come to you, Mr. Sardana, let's listen in once again to what the Prime Minister had to say, and then we'll continue as to how we're essentially looking at that as well. Let's listen in.
अपने लघु उद्यमियों से कहूंगा, मेरे छोटे छोटे दुकानदार भाई बहनों से कहूंगा, मेरे किसान भाइयों से कहूंगा, मेरे पशुपालक भाई बहन से कहूंगा, और मैं गांधी की धरती पे से बोल रहा हूं, मेरे देश के लघु उद्यमी हो, किसान हो, पशुपालक हो, हर किसी के लिए मैं आपको बार बार वादा करता हूं, मोदी के लिए आपके हित सर्वोपरि है.
Sardana, the reason why that's also important to put into perspective, because last time as well we've spoken about how the Prime Minister essentially said how this is a red line. And India has, of course, said no to US, in terms of that particular sector, because our farmers can't perhaps also in terms of that market compete on that standard. But isn't that proof that perhaps decades of Indian farm policy have seen those challenges or never prepared our farmers to be competitive?
You're right. That's what I'm saying. Let me, very standard argument which comes that our farmers are small, that is why we are not able to upgrade. Chinese farmer average land holding is less than India. India is about 1.08 hectare. China is about 0.65 hectare. Their productivity of cereal is 6 tons per hectare, and our productivity is around 3 tons per hectare. So this argument, and I'm not going too far, let's look at Bangladesh. Their land holding is also 0.6 hectare and their productivity is around 5 tons. What I'm trying to say that how long we will continue to give these excuses that farmers are small and we are not able to perform. If farmers are small, you have to change the management approach. I'm suggesting two simple things from last so many years, and I don't know why government of India is not looking at it. Number one, you have cooperative models. Can you create farmer cooperatives based on land holding? Means in a particular village, if farmers are there, like milk farmers collectively produce milk and run a factory, collectively orange farmers, collectively wheat farmers, collectively rice farmers, why they cannot work together? I know there is a politics behind it. There are other issues in it, but we should at least attempt cooperatives. Second important issue which we have to look at, every time we will say food processing will be a solution. I'm a food technologist, I'm a dairy technologist, I was running food companies for 25 years. I'm asking a fundamental question. If citizen of India is feeling that raw material is expensive, I'm unable to afford. Now you are saying you cannot afford raw material, I will give you value-added product with packaging, with taxation, with logistics, with all overheads. Is it logical? Food industries thrive only when there is a surplus, low-cost option available. Food industry cannot sustain when there is a competition between table consumption and processing industry. It never happened anywhere in the world. I don't know why fundamentally we are not understanding these basics. Third issue which is very important for us to appreciate, that when we are talking of productivity of farmers, we have surplus agriculture commodities which we can export. There is a byproduct utilization. Take an example, rice bran. Rice bran is surplus in India. We are wasting it. Indian industry was processing and exporting it, earning foreign exchange, utilizing byproduct. One fine day, Government of India decided to ban exports. No logic, no data provided, no justification, just because a particular lobby wanted that prices of feed material should not go up, without understanding that we have a surplus and we are not utilizing enough raw material. Instead of encouraging more processing, we take shortcut approaches by killing the whole effort of private sector by banning randomly without any justification, only for political consideration. And that is what I say, that in India, agriculture is a political activity because all decisions are based on political considerations. Agriculture was never considered as an economic activity.
there, Mr. Sardana, but let me take that point that you have made, right? In the larger scheme of this, is it just political optics, right? Mr. Shesh, coming to you as to how you would want to essentially look at that as well, because in 2025, are we looking at this particular issue only as vote bank as well?
Farming is politically sensitive. It is not only in India, in Europe. I have seen it personally myself. In the United States, these farming lobbies and farmers are extremely politically sensitive, and a practical politician will not dare to touch them, because if that fails, the entire governance models fails, and therefore in a democratic setup, one has to be very sensitive to what the farmers want. Yes, I agree with Mr. Sardana that over a period of time, these things have to be faced off. You've got to distinguish between large farmers and small farmers. You've got to make available land, small lands consolidation into larger lands. You will have to use drones. You will have to use mechanization. As he rightly said, export of collateral products you will have to do. But it is undeniable that farming is politically sensitive. In fact, we always say, if you want to learn politics, go to the farm sector.
Absolutely. But coming back to you, Mr. Sardana, given the aspect of how we've seen this pan out as well, we know all in all, while we don't know how this is going to pan out in terms of the larger scheme of things with that tariffs, but with how Prime Minister Modi is also looking at that message being very clear. Why you talk about how ground reality is completely different? What's a reform that needs to be addressed, for that story to change perhaps for the Indian sector?
See, first of all, we have to do benchmarking. See, first of all, what we have to do is there is a fundamental requirement of knowledge transfer to farmers. What we are doing is we are just giving subsidies and different schemes in the name of freebies or lollipops in the name of one scheme or the other. Why I'm saying lollipop? Because unless you give them a proper knowledge, in agriculture we call it extension services, all the money which farmer is taking is either improperly utilized or misused. Instead of increasing the productivity and quality of the crop, this money is actually becoming NPA. Now, this is becoming a liability not only for the farmer, but the whole banking system of India. And our production, if you look at, in last 10 years is technically stagnant. We are not increasing our productivity. Now, why this is happening? We keep claiming that we have very funny things in this system. There is a claim in the parliament that we have lost 60,000 seed varieties in last 70 years. China lost only 360 varieties. Why we are launching so many seed varieties which farmers are not adopting? Just because some scientists want a promotion, we are spending money in the name of R&D, which benefit is never reaching the farmer. This process must stop. We have to make our R&D accountable. We have to make them extension more logical and result oriented. Where is the benchmarking at state level? Agriculture is a state subject. Why state governments are not made accountable by doing benchmarking that we have given you so much money? Why productivity has not increased? Why you are distributing L1 seeds which are non-productive? Tender of L1 seed means they are anyway non-performer. Expensive, good quality seed farmers are buying from pocket which are not subsidized. We are still in the trap of doing, optics. We are not focusing on performance. And this is going to cost India. And that's what I'm saying, that tariff issue is only having a shelf life of 2 to 3 years.
In a nutshell, to say that the R&D is not translating into a better story, because like you put that into perspective earlier as well, the foundation in itself seems like it does have cracks. So that building to be really strong enough, perhaps it's going to take some more time while you look at it from that prism as well. But Mr. Sardana and Mr. Shesh, thank you very much for taking the time out, joining us here this evening. But for the moment, I'm afraid that's all that we have the time for in terms of how we're essentially looking at this all in all. But we're also slipping a quick break here on Business at 9. Stay with us. Lots more coming up on the other side as far as top stories are concerned this month. Don't go.